Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Marco Dre Show, everybody. It is Friday, November 14, 2025. Thanks for tuning in today's show to hear all the relevant groundbreaking news here in America and around the world, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please don't forget to follow the show, share it with whomever needs to hear the truth so we can make common sense common again in America together. Hope everyone's ready for the best hour radio has to offer, uncensored and ready to go. Let's get down to brass tacks before we hit our weekly economic report. Do you see how the media is parading around these Epstein emails about discussing President Donald Trump? What don't they want you to focus on right now and to give all your attention to nonsense like this? None of which, by the way, is incriminating in the slightest. I've looked at some of these emails. Nothing in it is incriminating. Yes, they mention President Trump, but there's nothing that indicates any type of criminal activity. But here's what I want you to think about right now. Now, there may be dirt somewhere else. I don't know. But think about this. If the Dems actually had dirt on Trump's involvement in this type of behavior, do you really think they would have sat on this for entire 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration? That they wouldn't have looked into this? Would Kamala Harris have stayed quiet during the presidential debates of 2024 if this incriminating evidence existed and was known by our Justice Department? So they looked at all these other facets, the election, his business dealings, but they couldn't look at something like this, which would be extremely damning. Instead, what do we have? We had 4 different types of cases, all changing misdemeanors to felonies, and none of it was even viable. None of it was even true. They didn't go after anything that would actually have incriminated President Trump. But they're going to stay quiet on this. Why? Now, there could be other explanations for that. I don't know, but I'm just saying, why would they not use this information if they wanted to take down President Trump? And again, if so, why didn't the Dems investigate, indict, or charge anyone else with these crimes? If this evidence is so prevalent. You know, they were fine with exploiting women, children on their southern border. You know, the previous administration lost 325,000 children. I don't know if you know this. And again, to my knowledge, only 9,000 have been found. So why the hell isn't that in the news? Why aren't the Dems focused on finding these lost children, likely sold into sex slavery by the drug cartels that work on both sides of the border? And again, let's remember that they would use horse tranquilizers to drug these children, and whomever brought them could just claim that they were their parent when they got to the border, right? They give a, fist bump to the, Border Patrol. They open up that razor wire in Texas, let everybody, single person come in. And never forget that Biden and Harris did this while they destroyed our nation's sovereignty. Hell, Gavin the Tool Newsom, good old Newscum, was just fine with this. Unaccompanied minors working on a marijuana farm in Camarillo. You all remember that. He wasn't mad about that. He was mad that the ICE agents came in there and detained these people. And the story blew wide open. He was more upset about that than minors, unaccompanied minors working at a marijuana farm. I'm sure against their will. I think you'd agree on that as well. So don't buy this nonsense that the Dems care about children or women or really anyone for that matter. Anyways, let's get down to brass tacks. Why not? Why not? It's Friday. Let's get down to it. Let's talk economics. Let's see how we're doing. How do we do this week? Well, Caroline Levitt said that there are no reports for the economy for October. Oh, really? Well, I got it for you. Why not? I always got everything for you, don't I? Of course I do. And how do we do, folks? Well, apparently Fox Business was on it for October 2025, reporting that there was 153,074 layoffs in just October alone, the highest report for the month of October in 22 years, representing a 175% increase compared to October of 2024, and 183% jump from September of 2025. Now, there's some factors about this we need to go over, of course. Number one, you have the government shutdown. That plays a big role in all this. So you're going to have a lot more layoffs and what have you. And, that's just the truism for what we are. The Dems shut the government down. And again, we had to deal with it. So there was lots of people in the government laid off. There was also private companies that were laying people off. But the GDP growth for quarter four as of mid-November is 2.1%. And again, if the current trends continue, which is low for this quarter, with all the spending for the holidays that we generally see, we saw quarter three with 3.2% growth, which is fairly solid. Quarter one, 1.7% growth. So you can see why they want to lower interest rates right now, coming up. They want to, again, devalue the dollar. That way there's more money supply for the M1 money supply to come in. And again, more people begin to invest, and there's more dollars chasing the same amount of goods. So it won't be good for the dollar, but it will probably be good for, obviously, some growth in the economy. That's what they're hoping for, at least. J.D. Vance sat down with Sean Hannity, I believe it was yesterday evening, if I'm not mistaken. And they discussed the shutdown. And of course, we now know that the government was opened up. But what was all that ploy about? What did the Democrats use this for? Why do they want this? What are they going to gain from this? And of course, I've been telling you this. There's nothing to gain from this, except to show that they're going to pander for every last illegal alien in this country. But here's what he said to Sean Hannity when Hannity asked, what was the goal of all this? What was the purpose of all this? Here's what Vance said.
Here's what the Democrats actually accomplished. They caused a lot of stress for our troops. They made our air traffic controllers not get paid. They caused a lot of flight cancellations. They had a lot of people thinking they weren't going to get their food benefits, all for literally nothing, Sean, because we could have struck this exact deal 45 days ago. In fact, we met with Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and said, we will pass this exact deal. They said no. They put the American people through a ton of pain and suffering for nothing. And we knew this was going to happen, Sean. We knew the President of the United States said every single day, eventually, the Democrats are going to realize this is an absurd position. We've got to reopen the government. And that's what they did.
Well, he's absolutely right about this, and for many reasons. Number one, look what was happening in our airports. Even today, with the government opening up already, we're slowly seeing the air traffic controllers get back to work. There were some 500 delays, some 600 cancellations today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what's happening soon? Thanksgiving. People are going to start traveling more. It's the holiday season. How long are they going to keep this charade up for? And that's going to upset Democrat, Republican, Independent alike, or apolitical people for that matter. They're going to get miffed about this. If the government's shut down, they can't get to their destinations. If there's going to be 3-hour delays to get where they need to go, people are waiting to pick them. I mean, all these things would make the Democrats look very, very bad. They wanted this optic for the off-cycle elections that we saw in New Jersey, New York City, Virginia, obviously in California. They wanted this. They wanted the optic, of course. Look, at the Democrats need to come save you. Look what the government's doing right now. Look at all these people laid off from work. Well, again, this is due to the Democrats. They wanted to go to bat for the illegal aliens. They wanted to go to bat for, obviously, their mouthpieces, PBS, NPR. They wanted funding for this LGBTQ curriculum in other nations. This is what they wanted. And the Republicans said, finally, the Republicans have a spine and said, no, we're not going to do this. We're standing by what we're going to do. And now they're going to look into the benefits of SNAP now. They're going to make everyone reapply now. I think that's a good thing. Absolutely a good thing. But there's so many illegal aliens abusing these systems, abusing Medicaid, abusing Medicare, abusing the SNAP program. And obviously our medical system indefinitely. Of course, those things are happening. What else happened, though? Well, we have the average personal loan debt in America right now, not including mortgage payments, at roughly $23,000 per American. Amazing. Owing some $4.7 trillion. Oh, yeah. How's that break down? Well, auto loans, leases, $1.68 trillion. Student loans, a whopping $1.34 trillion. Credit card debt loans, their balances, $1.08 trillion. And personal loans and medical debt, a staggering $600 billion. There's Keynesian economics in a nutshell for you. Go into debt, give yourself a better quality of life. That's what they say, at least. Is that true, do you think? Something tells me otherwise, especially with stagnant wages in the country right now. Now, in 2025, understand this, the average American has only $8,000 in their savings. $8,000 across the board. In other words, not a damn thing. You have Gen Z under $5,000, millennials anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000. What the hell are they going to do with this? How can you live on $10,000 for the rest of your life? Gen X, $20,000 to $40,000, doing a little better. Obviously, they can save for emergencies or medical bill or what have you. And our favorite group, the boomers, generally exceeding $50,000. Of course, they've been in the job market much longer, obviously. Plus retirement savings. So they're doing much better, of course. They're the ones who are kind of leading in this whole thing. Gen X, not too bad. Everyone else, struggling. And by the way, the CPI for this month over month, went up 0.12%. Not much, not noticeable. But year over year, we see a 2.68% increase and a 60% rise. A 0.6% rise. Well, August was 0.32%. So we're seeing things go up. Obviously, these things happen. Where are we with the unemployment? 4.3%. When Trump first took office, it was 4%. Estimated to reach 4.5% by the end of quarter four. So things are going up in terms of that number. More people are not working than at the start of the year. There's many different reasons for that. But understand this. What's the most important figure? That would be the labor participation rate, which is now at 62.3%. Now, some of you are saying, well, what's the difference? Well, listen, the unemployment rate only goes after people that are actually searching for jobs. So you got to understand that. A good figure for any year, or for that matter, for the labor participation rate is anywhere between 63 and 67%. So we're very close to that. Those are indicators of a very strong economy. So we're not too far off from that. And again, we have the potential to grow back into that. I believe Donald Trump was in that realm in his first tenure in office. So not great. We're not where we need to be, but we're getting closer to it. And I do hope, I hope we don't reach 4.5% inflation. Obviously, that's not good to increase those numbers, but it's not anything that's terribly drastic just yet. Again, if the trend continues, obviously, we would look further into that. Well, we got Brent crude now trading around $64 to $65 per barrel this week, while the West Texas Intermediate is somewhere between $58 and $60 per barrel. Both were lower this week than last week's numbers. That means, well, what's the reason for this? We have OPEC Plus slightly deciding to produce more oil, right? They're pumping out 4.57 million barrels per day now, over the benchmark of just 2.2 million barrels per day, for a couple reasons. Why? One, we have weak global economies. You can just look at Europe. Look at Germany, the largest economy inside Europe right now. They're in a recession, and they have been for the last 2 years. So now some producers have spare capacity. They have more infrastructure that allows them to pump more oil and store more oil. So they're doing that. So they're pumping more and they're saving more. So they're increasing the supply. And again, you have greater demand right now for more oil. So you have the United States putting sanctions now on Russian oil, telling India not to buy from Russia. So OPEC is taking that advantage, obviously. So, hey, if you're not going to buy from Russia, they're going to have to buy from somewhere else. Where are they going to go? So they're probably going to go to OPEC countries, is what they would imagine. So if they do follow through on that, you need to get it from elsewhere. Just understand that. So they're planning ahead in that regard. Why do you think President Trump hasn't put any tariffs on imported oil, natural gas, refined petroleum products from Canada, which makes up, 50% of crude oil imports into the country? Remember Joe Biden shut down the Keystone XL pipeline? The prices soared. You all remember that. California, we're paying $6, $7 per gallon for unleaded, regular. Then, of course, you have Mexico. By the way, both have tariffs if they are not in USMCA compliance. So again, if they're importing it from elsewhere, not holding those standards, then there is a tariff. But if not, if they're drilling there in those countries, there's no tariff on it. And why is he doing that? Because he wants the price of energy to be cheaper in America. And then you have to look at Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Colombia, Nigeria, South Korea, Netherlands, India, all for the last couple for their petroleum, of course. But these are where we're getting oil from in this country. We're not seeing any tariffs on any of them. So we may see gas prices continue to drop, again, with the trading exchange lowering right now, with more oil being pumped, though that might be a good sign that we start to see prices drop a little bit. We got the stock market this week, more bearish than bullish. Stocks were not that good. Dow Jones earlier this week dropping. I think it just dropped 200 points from yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Last time I checked. Again, this is due to tech, job concerns, things of that nature. We have S&P 500 looking to drop despite a midweek rebound, and the NASDAQ declined as NVIDIA and other AI stocks also dropped. So there's concerns about this. And again, of course, in America, we have concerns about the tariffs and how that's going to work. And then finally, gold. How are we looking at gold this week? Trading just over $4,200 per ounce. That's a hell of a range to be in right now. And it's up from the $4,000 last week. And again, largely because of the anticipated Fed cuts. They want to cut those interest rates. So what does that mean? When the Fed cuts interest rates, the dollar decreases. As the dollar decreases, the price of gold goes up. That's why you're seeing that price start to soar. So that's an indicator. Again, that's why they're doing that. So you'll see a weaker dollar. And when you get a weaker dollar, the gold's going to go up. So also we have economic uncertainty and, of course, concerns about job growth. And also because gold is, as always, going to be traded as a currency, as it has been for millennia. So again, I'd look into gold if I were you. If I were investing, of course. And again, I'm not trying to give you financial advice by any stretch of the imagination, but I would look into it. Again, when the dollar goes, and it will go at some point. I think our dollar today is only worth, 2-3 pennies of what it originally was worth. But guess what's always going to be there? Even if there are CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, there's going to be gold. And a lot of these Federal Reserves, right, these Federal Reserve banks all over the world, what are they investing in? What are they getting a lot of? They're getting a lot of gold right now. They want their currencies to be backed by something. Ours is not backed by anything. That's why it's a fiat currency right now. And again, that's why you're seeing inflation soaring right now to what it is from its original value. So overall, not a great week. Could be worse, obviously. Anything could always be worse. But I think as you see the government open back up, you'll see a lot of these people laid off, come back to work. And I think you'll start to see things start to increase, especially if President Trump starts to drop some of these tariffs, which we'll talk about momentarily. But we talked about, obviously, the government shutdown costing us $15 billion per week. Not a good thing. They blew some $90 billion on this, folks. Wasted. So I know we're all saying, yeah, the government shut down, not a big deal. It is a big deal. Because your government's losing money right now as a result of this. So we should all be very upset about this. This shouldn't be a positive for us. Again, I know some people weren't directly affected by all this. But again, when you have 20,000 flights to be canceled or delayed, not a good thing. When you have 153,000 people, none of them are government agents. I understand that. But that's a chunk of that number. Government employees that were furloughed. You're going to see prices go up. I mean, it's just a result of this now. And again, we have 42 million people not getting food assistance. That's a big problem, folks. Again, big problems going on. All that money's going to be, obviously, put back into it. But again, we lost out a lot of money on this. Paul Craig Roberts has a great article kind of summarizing what this whole shutdown was all about. And he really nails it on the head here, I think. So I want to read this to you. He said, I wrote recently that a 42-day government shutdown is hard evidence that American democracy is dysfunctional and on its way out. Indeed, federal courts made rulings hastening the end of democracy. What does he mean by this? Now, he says the government has since reopened, but the lasting damage was done. Yet federal courts now ordering President Trump to fund the SNAP benefits, even though Congress had not appropriated any money to fund the payments. So we got to look at our Constitution. Who is in charge of the finances? It's not the president. The president will sign that into law. He'll sign it into effect. He'll implement those policies. But it's Congress that holds the power of the purse, right? That's why I'm so against these tariffs. President Trump doesn't have any right to just say, hey, we're going to do 107% tariffs on Chinese goods. That's not how it works. Yet the necessity of feeding 42 million Americans who are, I guess, entitled to be fed by working citizens caused by federal judges to set aside Congress's power over the budget and, of course, attempt to place the power in the hands of the executive branch. Again, completely unconstitutional. Now, of course, Congress being the culprit by refusing to pass the budget, see Chuck Schumer for this. But nevertheless, we are witnessing clear proof that the United States' so-called democracy is really so dysfunctional that the courts thought that the balance of powers had to be set aside, telling President Trump, you must do this. Again, it's not President Trump that has to do this. It's Congress. Congress has to act. That's why we have separation of powers. That's why we have a Congress. That's why we have a legislature. That's why you have representatives passing these bills. And, of course, the president signs them into law. Now, the government has reopened in time for Congress to retain its power by exercising it, but a further step has been taken in the transition from democracy to autocracy. He's absolutely right about this. I mean, are we going to give all this power just to one man? Whatever President Trump deems worthy at whatever given time we're going to do? Why the hell even have a Congress? Why pay them? This is why we send our representatives to the Hill. Because they're supposed to advocate for us. We shouldn't have a bloated federal government. We shouldn't have deficit spending like this, like we continue to have. So all these things are a major problem. Of course, 42 days. We had Congress sitting on their hands doing nothing. And while some people say, well, that's great, no one's getting paid, like I said, you had air traffic controllers, we had people in our military not working, you had people not getting assistance that they claim to need. It is a big problem in some cases. Now, not for everybody, I understand that, but in many cases it is a big problem, and we should all be aware of this. Now, I told you before, there's talks, of course, of these tariff cuts coming up. We have trade deals to now lower food prices ahead of the midterms. And Operation Affordability really needs to kick in. Because, again, if Trump does not act in this way, if he doesn't make groceries more affordable, particularly groceries, of course, but if he doesn't start doing things that make buying homes more affordable, or, again, grocery prices, energy prices, you're going to see people starting to look towards what the Dems are offering. Again, that's why Mamdani's situation in New York City was so crucial. People are just looking for any type of handout to get ahead because they can't do it on their own. This is in ZeroHedge. It says President Trump's Operation Affordability initiative kicked off this week. It's about damn time, by the way, with the White House unveiling plans for tariff reductions and expanded trade ties with Latin American countries to boost the imports of key food products. Of course, the goal to drive down supermarket prices ahead of the 2026 election cycle to reverse the darkening sentiments among low and middle class income consumers. Now, again, I think he's been effective in some cases. Our energy prices have dropped at the gas pumps by and large. Can't deny that. But we'd like to get to energy independence sometime soon. Again, it's going to take a little bit of time. Again, you have to understand something. When you have 4 years of no growth, was what you saw in the Biden administration, when you have COVID destroying small business, that takes a big hit on the economy. President Trump inherited this mess. He didn't really create it, but he's the one that has to deal with it now. That's why I said the tariffs are a stupid idea for many reasons. One, he doesn't have the authority to do that. I do think the courts are going to rule against him being the tariff czar, if you want to call him that. But again, those prices translate to you, the consumer. So again, the low and middle class income consumers are the ones getting hit the most. And they are a bigger bulk of the country than, of course, the higher earners. So on Tuesday, President Trump and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent both revealed on corporate media major moves the administration's attempt to reduce costs for Americans when it comes to food. Trump called the effort a surgical and beautiful, while Bessent said that the efforts would bring down prices very quickly. And of course, he predicts now that people would start feeling better about the economy in the first half of 2026. Remember, I read that article to you from the Wall Street Journal probably a couple months ago, and they said, don't worry about the economy getting better. Wait till 2026. Well, they can't wait for long, folks. They got to start doing something about this. Now, a UBS analyst led by Jonathan Pringle described President Trump's economy as a big bet on AI and upper income households. What does he mean by all this? Well, Pringle noted that the bifurcated consumer environment between the higher income and lower income households is a big problem here. We need to understand this. So the prices got to get more affordable. How do you get prices more affordable? Now, he pointed out that our base is an equity market, drawdown being avoided. Households suffer for the next 2 quarters. That's not a good thing. If Trump doesn't do much better for this economy, I'd say by the end of quarter 2, 2026, there's going to be a big problem here. When people go to the polls in November. Just thought I'd bring that up to you. Now, Pringle expects a $55 billion boost to disposable incomes in the second quarter of 2026 from a retroactive tax relief and the One Big Beautiful Bill. And he said that bumper refunds, that's what he's calling them, should temporarily revive household spending by mid-2026, which is just in time for the midterm cycle. Yeah, he's right about that. So Bessent is likely right that the consumer sentiment will be improving in the up-and-coming months. And this reversal is extremely crucial. If these sentiment gauges fail to reverse, some folks may be drawn towards the newly transformed Democratic Party. That would be chaotic. Again, what are they offering other than higher taxes to you, though? But again, if they're offering you something for nothing, look at Mamdani in New York City. Those candidates may very well win. And again, the heavily influenced Marxist agenda, the Democrat Socialist of America position, who aim to squander America's inheritance by dangling free stuff to the voters, becomes more palatable for the new up-and-coming young people. So getting out of college, they say, hey, there's nothing here for me. But this guy's saying, hey, free healthcare, free bus rides, freeze the rent. Hey, good for me. I don't care. As long as I don't have an increase in my rent, I'm good. Free city grocery store, all this nonsense. It's appealing to young people because they don't know how the economy works yet. I remember when I was young, I had no idea how the economy worked. You have to go through, some life before you understand this. Well, again, something for nothing sounds good. Make the guy that's earning $1 million pay more. What the hell do I have to pay more? I'm making $50,000 a year. Living in New York City, that's nothing. So again, people are feeling this. He's got to get to the young voters. He's got to improve opportunity, and he's got to make affordability happen. That's what it has to be. If there's an affordability crisis, this disaster will hit him and the Republicans hard. Now, the New York Crimes reported that the updated reciprocal tariff rules will include carve-outs for beef and citrus, expanding on prior executive orders directing the agencies to identify products not grown domestically for exemption. Again, if he doesn't increase products, particularly for beef in the United States, and starts importing it from elsewhere, the price is going to go up. That's just a truism. Now, we've been through some droughts, I understand that. But we can handle it here in this country, I think. Right, folks? I think we can all agree on that. We should be looking out for our own farmers, not for other people. All right. What else, by the way? Speaking of the economy, what else? Fox Business has this up here. It says that Disney now ditches diversity and DEI in business reports for the first time since 2019. What the hell's going on here? Well, I mean, they're dying slowly. Their stocks are crashing as a result of this. People aren't going to see these stupid movies anymore because they don't want to pervert their children. Who could blame them? It says Disney removed the terms diversity and DEI from its annual business report for the first time in 5 years on Thursday morning. In the company's 2025 Form 10-K filed after its recent quarter 4 meeting, the words diversity, inclusion, DEI, or diversity, equity, and inclusion appeared 0 times, while the term equity appeared about 130 times. It was only used in a financial context. Now, by contrast, the company's 2024 SEC filing included let me see it. Where are we? Oh, it's moving on me. It says here that here we go. Sorry, folks. My page froze on me. It says it from its annual business reports for the first time in 5 years. It says it included a dedicated section on diversity, equity, and inclusion in that year, but now they're moving away from it. Now, why are they moving away from it? Because people aren't showing up to this. They're not going to buy these tickets to these movies. They're not watching the cartoons. They're not buying the toys and everything that goes along with it. They're not going to go to Disneyland or Disney World, where this environment is. Also, it's not affordable. You could look at those prices too if you'd like. But in the 2024 report, they said our DEI objectives are to build and sustain teams that reflect the life experience of our audiences, while employing and supporting a diverse array of voices in our creative and production teams. Oh, okay. Well, what the hell does that have to do with anything? I mean, you can look at this report saying the Disney look from its 2024 SEC 10-K report includes the Reimagine Tomorrow program, which came under scrutiny after a 2022 meeting that the program hosted a featured Disney executive touting her not all that secret gay agenda. Now, let me ask you this. Why would children need to be involved in this? Does anybody know why? Well, I can tell you why. They want to prevent the children. That's what it comes down to. Understand this. Who is their biggest audience? It's young children, right? Elementary school age children, right? Primarily that watch these movies. You have to understand, when kids are this young, when they're 10 years and younger, they're kind of in this what's called a theta brainwave state. What does that mean exactly? A theta brainwave state simply means that the kids have no concrete rational thinking. When you tell them, oh, look, Santa Claus is real. I mean, most of them believe that for a long time. Obviously, when you're getting a little bit older, you move away from that. But by and large, they can't have concrete rational thoughts. They don't understand. They're in like a dreamlike state constantly. That's how it is. So when they see these things on the screen, they think it's normal, it's acceptable, it's how the world is. And as they see it more and more and more, their brains become wired to that, and of course they accept it. So if you tell little Johnny he could be a little girl, he believes that, right? Oh, okay, all right, great. I mean, this is just how it is. The brain, again, wires itself that way. So here's what they go on to say. They said, on my little pocket of proud family Disney TVA, the showrunners were also super welcoming. Our leadership over the years has been super welcoming to my not all secret gay agenda. They're going hard. I don't have to be afraid to have these two characters kiss in the background. I was just, wherever I could, adding queerness, is what this lunatic says, who's the executive producer. LaToya Ravenue said at the time. And how's that fared out for them? Parents see this and go, what is this? Why am I showing my kid this? Now, any normal parent would pull their kids from this and probably demand their money back and not go see these movies or watch them ahead of time before showing their children. But this type of weird nonsense, first of all, it's unacceptable to do that. But again, we're seeing this in the public schools. They're doing the same thing. They're exposing elementary level school students to this type of nonsense again, this sexualization. And again, that's why as a parent, you need to know what your school is teaching your kids. You should know this. Now, though Disney has been shifting away from DEI initiatives, again, because they're losing money, corporate stockholders voted in favor of continuing the company's participation in the Human Rights Campaign Corporate Equality Index in March with the national benchmarks tool on corporate policies, practices, and benefits pertinent to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer employees. Does it make any sense? It's unbelievable. It really is sickening, unbelievable. Why would you support this? Why would anybody support this nonsense? So now it sounds to me like what they're trying to do is move away from using these terms, but still try to expose your children to this nonsense, this garbage, this crap, this debauchery. I don't know why they're catering to their employees to put this crap in the purview of children. To me, it's sickening. As you as parents should not ever abide by this. It's just wrong. I think we all can agree on that. All right, moving on away from Disney. My God, how ridiculous that is. Again, just wanted you to be aware of this. Oh, they won't call it that, but they'll throw it in there. Don't worry about it. All right, Bloomberg says Kathy Hochul weighs corporate tax hike to fund budget. Mamdani's plans, so it's going to fall right in the face of both of them. And again, she's looking at her reelection numbers dropping as time goes on. Elise Stefanik is going to be going against her. It seems like she's a representative from upstate New York in the Albany area. It says here, though, that New York Governor Kathy Hochul is considering raising corporate taxes as part of a broader effort to close a potential budget shortfall and help out the communist Zoran Mamdani's agenda as New York City mayor. Now, if she does this, she's an idiot, first of all, which she is an idiot. No doubt about it. I mean, she's a moron. And she's going to drive more people out of New York City if she does this. I told you this before. People are going to be leaving New York City. That's going to happen. They're not going to put up with this crap of, again, raising $10 billion. It's going to all fall on them. And there are a lot of billionaires in New York City, don't get me wrong. But they're not going to do this. Why would they stay in the city where they're going to, one, he's going to be in charge of the police, and he's going to he's going to gut the police, by the way. If you think he's going to add police on the streets, you're mistaken. But again, Hochul endorsed this idiot and now weighing additional levies to help fund universal childcare, free buses, free subway rides. Do you think the richest people in New York City ever ride the buses or take the subways? Do you think they care about that? So again, it's absurd to me. It'd be like telling somebody in Beverly Hills, yeah, you need to fund our metro here. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that's going to go over well. But a spokesperson for the idiot Hochul didn't respond for requests for comments. I wonder why. But Mamdani, who assumes office in January, has estimated free childcare, free buses, and a slew of other free services that will cost about $10 billion. He's probably undershooting that as well, by the way. But the Queen's Assembly member or is it assemblyman? We don't know. Campaigned on raising taxes on corporations, of course, and the wealthiest to help pay for his agenda. Again, something for nothing. Although the tax policy is determined by the state lawmakers and the governor. He's got to get them on board too. So how do you feel about this, New York? Do you feel good that your taxes are going to be raised so you can fund some dumb, I almost said congressman, communist, his wet dream for communism in the Big Apple? Raising taxes, you're going to drive people out of the state. People are going to say, you know what, I've had enough of this. I've had enough. You're not going to go to New Jersey, but you're going to go somewhere else. You're going to see people fleeing the city. You're already starting to see it now. I talked to you the other day. $100 million in real estate in Florida now from people from New York already. He hasn't even taken office yet. You're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, folks. You're going to see crime go up. You're going to see rent become more unaffordable because people are not going to start building. People are going to pull their businesses. That's lack of opportunity now. The people that have money, the most money, are just going to leave. Or they're going to put their money somewhere else. Or their main residence somewhere else to avoid these high taxes. Why would you live in a city that's going to take over 50% of what you earned? So that means for half of the year, you're just working for free. Everything just goes to the government. You can see why our founding fathers were completely against this. And as this goes on, again, Hochul will lose if this happens, by the way. So she's also looking at this. Now, whether or not she goes along with it, or maybe she's just saving face by saying she's pondering this, she will go down if she does this. People in upstate New York are not interested in paying for crap in New York City. I'm just going to put it to you that way. And the state will hemorrhage money. And then what happens to Mamdani after this if he can't come forward on his plans and actually do all this? Well, he's going to blame rich people, of course. Well, the rich just don't want to pay. That's the rich. Tax the rich, right? That's what people are chanting. But again, they don't know what they're talking about. The wealthy already pay more taxes than everybody else, by and large. They make up what? Over 40% of all the taxes collected in the nation? The top 1%? Yeah, don't tell that to some schmuck in New York City that. They won't know what the hell you're talking about. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Again, my prognostication, mass exits from New York City, more crime in New York City, less opportunity, and more on affordability. And these free grocery stores, by the way, are city-run grocery stores. Yeah, you're going to see bare shelves, just like you saw in the Soviet Union. It's going to be amazing to see this. All right, moving on. Breitbart. What's happening in Russia right now? What's happening in this war now that we've continued to fund? As time goes on, Russia makes gains in southern Ukraine and the Zaporizhzhia region. What's going on here? I thought they couldn't do it. Oh, well, they made their way over the Dnieper River. Most of you don't know where that is, but just understand they're advancing as this war continues to linger on. The Russian army overran 3 settlements in the southern Zaporizhzhia region of Ukraine. Kiev's top military commander said on Wednesday, as Moscow's forces expand their efforts to capture more Ukrainian territory. I just want to repeat this because it sounds really important. They're gaining more territory as this goes on. Is there going to be Ukraine left after a while? You have these idiots in our government, our military primarily, who keep saying it's Ukraine is deterring them. Where have they deterred them in this entire process? Never. Never have they pushed them back. And they're trying to say, well, look at this sliver of land they've taken in this entire country. They should be in Poland by now. Well, hey, genius, they don't want to go to Poland. They don't want those regions. But if you're going to sit here and play stupid, they're going to continue taking more land. Then what are you going to do? Over $300 billion wasted on this to give them more land? And again, we've got to refer to Trump on this. It is his war now. We say, well, it's Biden's war. Well, actually, the CIA was there training Ukrainians under the Trump administration, his first term, on how to kill Russians, just so we're all clear on that. We allowed that to happen. So we're all clear on this. Look at where this war is going. I mean, you have some 20,000 people already defecting from the military, trying to flee. Those numbers are expected to go up as well. Does that sound like an army that is confident in what they're doing? They're taking people and putting them in the front lines, which is sure death for these people. What's left for Ukraine? That's what you have to ask yourself. What is left of this country? It's decimated. And again, as time goes on, they take more and more land. All right, so what does this mean for us? What do they want? What more can we do for them? Now, we've been going through this, again, charade of giving them Tomahawk missiles now. We've been tiptoeing around that. The U.S. is trying to put sanctions on Russia's biggest oil companies, Rosneft and Lukoil, raising the stakes for Putin, trying to, cripple their economy a little bit. It's not working, of course. I told you why. As a BRICS nation, they make up, 44% of the global GDP? It's not going to affect them, folks. I mean, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to deter them. The ethnic Russians in these regions, they want to save and protect. And for years, the Azov Battalion was killing these people. They were shelling them in these regions. The Maidan Revolution. We took out their pro-Russian, duly elected president. We did that. And then we wonder why there's this chaos going on. I mean, again, it's unbelievable to think about this. But the Russian leader so far has avoided any serious top-level peace negotiations. Again, that's because we're not making Zelensky talk to him. with Ukrainian and Western officials accusing him of stalling for time while his army tries to grab more Ukrainian territory, and international peace efforts have come to nothing. Well, again, the peace has to be between Putin and Zelensky. It can't be between Trump and Putin or Trump and Zelensky. Those two have to meet. And I'll say it again. I've said it to you for months now. There was a peace plan a month after this conflict first began in February of 2022. Joe Biden, Boris Johnson, two morons, one in the United States, one in the UK, scrapped the peace deal. You know, they're trying to be like Winston Churchill in World War II. Don't accept the peace plan by Germany, let the war continue on. We all saw how that went on. How many millions or more people were killed. So, we've got to understand that Russia's bigger and better equipped army has scaled up its attacks, placing the shorthanded Ukrainian military under severe strain. We know this. Ukrainian officials said in September that the front line has grown in length nearly 800 miles. The Ukrainian president, well, he's not even the president. I don't know why we're calling him the president. He suspended election in his country. He's the de facto president. We're supposed to listen to this jerk? It says here that Vladimir Zelensky said earlier this month that Russia had deployed around 170,000 troops into the Donetsk region. Yeah, because they have the men to do so. They're not taking the casualties that they're claiming that we're doing. So what is he asking for now, Zelensky? He's still asking for these Tomahawk missiles now that his troops don't even know how to use. So what's going to happen? What are we going to use them? It's absurd. Then you have idiots like Keith Kellogg, about a month ago, coming out and saying the following. Listen to this. It's absurd.
That issue of Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine was brought up by President Zelensky to President Trump at the UN General Assembly last week in New York City. There has been no comment either, yes, it's going to happen, or no, it's going to happen. The acknowledgement from, again, in the public reports is they were asked for. That is obviously something that has been picked up by the world press, obviously picked up by the Russians as well, simply because of the capability and the capacity of the weapon system. The weapon system is, in fact, by itself, to me, it's a game changer, only because how good it is, and somebody who's seen it used multiple times in multiple conflicts. So that's probably the biggest issue that came out of UNGA in the bilateral discussions that President Zelensky and President Trump had.
Thanks very much.
Okay. So he's encouraging President, and by the way, this guy's in President Trump's ear, encouraging him. He's speaking at the Warsaw Security Forum. Encouraging this is a game changer. It's going to be a game changer for Ukrainians. They can't even use this. Most of these Tomahawk missiles are primarily launched from naval vessels and submarines. Ukraine lacks all this. So what are they going to do? Use ours? Oh, that's going to go over well for diplomacy between us and Russia. I mean, this is the stupidity. They wanted to give them F-16 aircrafts. They don't know how to use them. I mean, this is the stupidity behind all this. Look how much we've funded into this. Over $300 billion. Probably more closer to $350 billion now. Now, Trump has severed some of the foreign aid going to this region. But we know as a result of this, some 80% of what we gave them, the money, the weaponry, we can't account for it. It's been on the black market. You talk about a big grift. My goodness. But this is where we are right now. This fairy tale that Ukraine can come out of this. They cannot. So how much more land does Russia need to take before we go, okay, maybe this isn't going to work out? And they keep holding Putin to the account on this. Oh, well, it's Putin. He's a dictator. He wants to take over all Europe. It's a bunch of crap. We know what he wants. He wants Crimea. He wants Zaporizhzhia. He wants Donetsk, Luhansk regions, and that's it. He wants it to be part of Russia, which, again, historically, it always was part of Russia. He doesn't want Poland. He doesn't want Moldova. He doesn't want Romania. He doesn't want Belarus. He doesn't want these countries. Everyone's like, well, he wants to be Catherine the Great. No, he doesn't. You know why? Because if he did want to be that, he could have done it very, very quickly. I mean, again, I hate to say it like this. I know people that are Ukrainian. They're great people. They're brave people. They're hardworking. But they are not going to go up against Russia and win. That's just the truth of the matter. Anyone telling you that they can is lying to you. And again, it just shows how this war has progressed. So maybe President Trump will come to his senses. I don't know. We have too many war hawks in his ear telling him, yep, they can do this. Yep, we can just send this. Yep, we'll send that. Oh, we'll send it to NATO first. That way it doesn't look so bad. We'll have NATO pay for it. I guess if we're fine with, again, giving weapons that they can't even use. Again, by the way, these Tomahawk missiles can, I believe they can go anywhere between 1,600 to 2,000 kilometers. Yep, so they can definitely strike deep into Russia. This is why they want to do this, by the way. But you have to understand, the Russians' technology is far more advanced than this. We need to understand this. It's far superior. Their regular missile systems are much more superior than ours. They got Poseidon missiles, hypersonic missiles, the Oreshnik missiles. They can do some damage. Ukraine cannot. Again, it's superior to our technology. The only way we stand a chance with Russia, and again, this is why we're doing these nuclear weapons testing right now, is because that's where we align with them. We are equal in that capacity with them. And again, I don't think we want to go there. Do you? I don't think so. All right, let's go out of this Fox News article. Not waste any more time. Hegseth now announces Operation Remove Narco-Terrorists from our Hemisphere. This is really, really stupid on so many different levels. I've harped on this many times in the past. War Secretary Pete Hegseth now announced on Thursday that the launch of Operation Southern Spear, a new mission targeting narco-terrorist networks across Latin America. Again, bogus, dumbfounded. I mean, again, not based on any real fact. But again, we're looking at going to war with Venezuela. Let's just understand that. That's the truth of the matter. Our peace president is pushing us closer to war in Venezuela. Let's understand that. Hegseth said on X now that a U.S. Southern Command and Joint Task Force Southern Spear will lead a mission to defend the homeland and dismantle narco-terrorist networks across the Western Hemisphere. Interesting. This mission defends our homeland, removes narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, and secures our homeland from the drugs that are killing our people. Well, now, on the abstracts, that sounds really nice, doesn't it? We're going to save everyone. There should be no drugs in America anymore. Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. It goes on to say the U.S. now carried out its 20th airstrike, hitting alleged drug trafficking boats earlier this week, according to the Pentagon. I love how it says alleged, because we can't prove a damn thing. That's the problem. You even have the UK now not wanting to share intelligence because they feel like we're violating international law, which we are. It says here, the United States carried out the most recent strike in the Caribbean, killing 4 suspected, not convicted, suspected narco-terrorists. These are people on fishing boats. Obviously, they're leaving Venezuela. They can't even reach the United States, and we're blowing these boats up. And we're saying, see, look, we got them. We got the terrorists. Again, I'm not going to go into great detail about this. This completely violates any semblance of the Constitution, constitutional law in particular. Folks, if we're not going to follow the Constitution, then obviously we're doing something that's illegal. If there were drugs on these fishing boats, and the U.S. Navy had intelligence that, yes, these boats are carrying drugs, the constitutional way would be to stop the boat, detain the people on the boat, search the boat, confiscate any paraphernalia on the boat, and then charge those people and give them a sentence for that. That's how it works. These boats aren't threatening our national security. We don't even know if there are drugs on these boats. And again, we're blowing the boats up, so we can't even figure it out. You can't even say that. That's why in every single article, suspected, alleged. No one here has been found guilty of anything. It's clearly a violation of the Fifth Amendment. Judge Andrew Napolitano told us this a few weeks ago in his op-ed in the Washington Times. This is not right. Can we go into an alleged person's house, guilty of a crime we don't even know if they committed, and start killing people? This would run amok in this country if that were the case. We still have the right that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. I know we've kind of blurred the lines on that, but that is the fact of the matter. And again, you can hide behind any facade of this, saving the national security, saving Americans from drugs. First of all, it's ridiculous. Far more drugs come into this country from Mexico, Colombia, Ecuador than anywhere else in the world. So what the hell are we focusing on Venezuela for? Which have very little drugs coming from into the United States. Usually the drugs coming out of Venezuela will go to other countries first, and they're smuggled in through the southern border. They're not coming directly from Venezuela, by and large. But this is what they're selling you. And by the way, are we going to go to war with Mexico now? Are we going to go to war with the drug cartels? Are we going to blow them up? What about Colombia? What about Ecuador? Or Bolivia, or anywhere else that are producing these hard drugs and bringing them into the country? I mean, there's a reason why they're called the Mexican drug cartels, because they're the ones that are, again, what do they call it? Muling, or using the mules to bring them into the country, and what have you. That's the truth of the matter. It says here that the U.S. will use warships in the region. Again, it's all focused on Venezuela, because we want to get access to that oil, access to those gold mines. We want to perform a coup, take out Maduro, and put in this Machada lady. That's the truth of it, folks. We want access to those resources. That's what it comes down to. And we know that she'll sell to the highest bidder. That puts her in power. She's already said this openly. A woman so-called for peace. Yeah, piece of crap, most likely. All right, so CBS News reported that President Trump was briefed for the potential options for operations in Venezuela, which tells me we're going to war in Venezuela, including possible land strikes, but no final decisions have been made yet. Top Democrats voiced support for the strikes against narco trafficking near Venezuela earlier this month. That's because they're schmucks too. Again, alleged. This is it. No one's been found guilty. There's no reason to do this. It has nothing to do with Venezuela. Has nothing to do with our national security. They pose zero threat to us. None of their boats can even reach ours. Well, at least the ones they're blowing up. But this is where we are as a nation. It's almost unbelievable. It really is. So expect a war, I guess, in Venezuela soon. This is what this is telling me. And President Trump wants a Nobel Peace Prize? Are you kidding me? What we should do is detain these people, search the boat, confiscate drugs. That's how you stop it. Secure our southern border, which we've been doing. Create a border wall, make it more difficult for people to come and go. And again, arrest drug dealers here in America. You're telling me the local police don't know where these drug houses are? Where people are getting access to these drugs? Give me a break. I mean, again, I was born in the morning, but it wasn't yesterday morning. All right, Slay News. Trump outlines Trumpcare Plan to replace Obamacare. I mean, you know what he should do? Here's what he should do. Create an executive order and say, I repeal the Affordable Care Act indefinitely, ... End of story. That's how he can bring prices down. And, of course, reshape the country's healthcare subsidies. But again, the president is proposing a system that would direct funding into personal accounts for Americans to purchase their own coverage. Why is the government involved in healthcare? I don't know. I mean, it's a sure sign. A step towards socialism, which Obama did. That's the sole purpose of doing this. And again, what do insurance companies do when they say, oh, really? You're going to put thousands of dollars into this more? Okay. What do hospitals do? Well, they jack up the prices. That's why you've seen things become so unaffordable. Then you add illegal aliens into this mix, then you have a real problem on your hands. And you're like, well, I really don't know why I'm paying thousands of dollars, for a scraped knee. I don't get it. Really? Because you're paying for the illegal alien, dunce. What do you think? Now, the 43-day government shutdown, which began on October 1st and ended on November 12th, which was driven in part by a dispute over the Affordable Care Act subsidies, again, giving, I think it was I think Trump said it was $1.5 trillion, if I'm not mistaken, putting towards healthcare for illegal aliens. I don't believe, it may be in hundreds of billions, if I'm not mistaken. But it was some outrageous figure like that. And of course, the Democrats want them on there, just like they want them on SNAP. Now, a Truth Social post last week, President Trump urged Senate Republicans to shift hundreds of billions of dollars away from insurance companies and towards the accounts controlled by individuals. Well, folks, again, whatever figure they give, we'll give you $3,000, we'll give you $5,000, whatever amount that is towards healthcare, you're going to see the providers starting to charge more money because they know you have access to that. And then what's the insurance company going to do? Negotiate based on those figures? You're still going to pay the insurance companies. When asked about the proposal during a Fox News interview this week, the president said that he wants the money to go into an account for people where the people buy their own health insurance. So again, the health insurance companies will see what figure that is, whatever's going into your account, and charge probably more than that. Why is the government involved in this at all? That's what you have to ask yourself. Again, we saw this with college tuition cost. The government came in and said, okay, we'll guarantee every single loan that's put out from the banks. And the colleges said, really? Okay. And look at how those prices have skyrocketed since then. Thinking about 2010, I think that started. You've seen the cost of tuition go up. And what, has college gotten any more efficient? Got any better? Of course not. Healthcare's quality's gone down and you're paying more for it. So again, I don't know why we're trying to intervene in this. I don't know why we're trying to get involved in this. This is not a role that government should even be involved in. This should be largely a state matter, if that. But has no business from the federal government. But they want to universalize healthcare. That's what it comes down. Maybe not Trump specifically, but this is another step towards it. Again, what happens to your taxes? They've got to go up. He says the insurance will be better, it'll cost less, is what he told Laura Ingraham. Everyone's going to be happy. Well, I doubt it. Again, anytime you announce you're going to put more money into something, the prices are going to go up. That's why, again, the Affordable Care Act should have been called the Unaffordable Care Act, because that's exactly what it was. Should be repealed, get out of it, has no place in our society. Let the market work, folks. Let the market work. You'll see the prices go down. All right. I got a couple more articles I want to finish up before we hit the weekend. I know I'm going over the time, but bear with me. This is in the Gateway Pundit, and it says Pope Leo now embraces transgenderism, invites prominent trans activists to the Vatican Luncheon. This guy's a real piece of work, isn't he? He's supposed to stand for what's stated in the Bible. Catholic values. Is this part of Catholic values? Something tells me no. But according to a left-wing Catholic blogger and activist, Christopher Hale, Leo's now going to meet with Italian transgender activist. What is that, by the way? What are you're an activist so people can chop things off and sew things on and pretend they're the opposite sex? I don't even know what that means. Alicia Nobile and several other campaigners for a luncheon on Sunday. Pope Leo now will meet and dine with a group of people, as such, with Alicia Nobile. And the encounter will take place as part of the church's Jubilee of the Poor, an event coinciding with the World Day of the Poor that includes Mass and communal meal with those in need. What does this have to do with transgenderism? That's what I want to know. What, after you have communion, you sit down with people with mental illnesses? I don't understand this. Nobile, 46, has confirmed that she, and again, this is a dude, she and four other transgender women, who are, again, also dudes, were invited to the luncheon after she formally requested an audience with the new pope, motivated by, it says her concern, it'd be his concern, that the church might turn its back on the LGBTQ rights after the death of his friend, Pope Francis. The upcoming meeting, unprecedented in placing a transgender advocate at the Pope's luncheon, is seen as a continual of Pope Francis' legacy of outreach to the marginalized people. And no bill hopes to reassure the LGBTQ XYZ WTUV plus minus negative side community of the Vatican's commitment to inclusion and dialogue. That's interesting to me. It's all very interesting to me to see this perversion enter the churches, of course, completely opposing Catholic values. What part does the Pope not understand of God's message? That's what I want to know here. I mean, are we going by the word of God? Or whatever the hell he feels like that day? I mean, this man is supposed to be our representation of what the Bible says. But we're going about this change in societal norms? Let me read you really quickly. Genesis 1, chapter 1, verse 27. So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. That's what it says. Now, does he say he created male and female and made a mistake? They can decide whatever the hell they want to be? He created male and females. That's what he did. That's what God did in his own image. We are created in God's image. Again, we can look at the biological factors in all this, the definite features that make a man and a woman, of course. And again, there's so many different ways men and women differ. I don't need to go into detail about that. But again, the idea that, you can, put makeup on if you're a dude or get this surgery and that surgery or use this blocker, it doesn't change your DNA, folks. Can we all come to terms on that? What the hell is the Pope doing on this? And why is he kowtowing to this ideology? Again, I sincerely feel bad for people that believe they're the opposite sex. I do. But to, again, embrace this, promote this, he should be trying to heal these people. He should be reading from the Bible that this is how God created you. Why are you trying to change this? He should be trying to help these people, not, again, assure them that this type of behavior is okay, because it isn't. Certainly not in the Catholic doctrines, certainly not in the Christian teachings. But again, this is what we see, this lukewarm approach to everything. I don't understand. This Pope is also an advocate for open borders, as was Pope Francis before him. So it's really just an extension of this, is what it comes down to. And again, as a practicing Catholic, this is very disheartening to see this push away from true teachings to what we see today. Very awful to see this. All right, one last article. I had this yesterday. I wanted to go over today, though, before we hit the weekend. This isn't just the news. Says that the efforts to remove fluoride from drinking water make steady progress amid mainstream headwinds. I like this. I like this a lot. You know why? Because fluoride reduces IQ levels. We don't need that. We certainly don't need any more of this at all. But now there's this growing movement to remove fluoride from public drinking water, gaining steam, fueled by modern research and safety concerns. And again, I think RFK Jr. is pushing forward on this as well. Folks, fluoride is a neurotoxin. It doesn't belong in your toothpaste, your water, anything that you consume. It doesn't belong in your body at all. Just thought I'd share that with you. By the way, if you don't believe me, you can look at any type of fluoride in any container. And on the side of it, it has a skull and crossbones on it for a reason. Because again, it doesn't belong in your body. And don't get me, the dentist, it's for, topical purposes. It strengthens your enamel of your teeth. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I'll implore all of you to go look up dental fluorosis. Go look at that. Go look at how much, if too much fluoride touches your teeth, it actually will weaken and destroy them. I don't think you want any of that. Now, adding to the fire is a judge's order last year that the Environmental Protection Agency must strengthen regulations on fluoride in drinking water based on what he concluded was scientific evidence of related health risks and mitigate what the court says is unreasonable risk to children's IQs. In January, Melbourne became among the first cities in Florida to stop fluorinated drinking water. I like this. Mayor Paul Elfrey said, you have a right to know what's in your water and what is necessary to be in your water. So that really should be your choice. He's absolutely right. Absolutely right. I like this. Now, we know fluoridated water dates back to the 1940s. And by the way, this was in the German concentration camps, so I'll just let you understand that. Fluoride makes you docile. Okay? It makes you docile. It makes you servile, right? Think infertility, folks. And really, I've been drinking distilled water for the better part of the last decade. And again, I can show you the inside of my distiller. It's nothing great to see all the aluminum, the calcium carbonate, the fluoride, the chloride, these bromines that have nothing to do with being in your body, by the way. It's unnecessary. So my suggestion to you, buy a distiller, buy a shower head that, again, takes out these toxins from touching your body. And again, these chemicals are potent toxins from industrial waste, aluminum, phosphate fertilizer plants. I mean, all these things. Factories release this into the water, into their air and water. I mean, this waste that comes into it, and you want to put this into your body? And again, with these health concerns, put that to a halt. The industry begins selling the toxic waste as fluoride components out of the public drinking water to fight cavities. I've been telling you, I said this to you before. Effectively flipping a costly hazard into a $1.2 billion a year business. There it is. Alfrey says it's a hazardous material, and I'm getting rid of it. I like this guy. I would still distill your water. You have no idea what the hell else is in your water. You'll find these contaminants in there, though. Every time and by the way, the distiller, every time you use it, you'll see it starts getting caked up with this white, I guess, texture or what have you, and it builds on the side of the distiller. Yeah, and again, you can look at this and see, hey, this is going into my body. This is what gets put in your arterial walls. Over time, it calcifies. Again, aluminum, mercury, all this stuff that you find as runoff into the water stream. Think of all the pesticides that are used that don't belong in your body. Again, these distillers are very good at getting this out. So again, Melbourne's action was followed by a statewide ban. Again, in July, Florida became the second state after Utah to halt fluorination. Wow. Big stuff. Big changes. These are positives for us. And again, Florida's Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo, I believe is how you say his name, says that only after a deep dive into research did he come to support banning fluoride. Good on him for supporting this, by the way. Good on him. I like this. These are steps in the right direction, folks. And again, I think over time, as we do this more, we're going to start to see more positive things come out of this. And again, improving child brain development, of course, and of course, just your ability to question things. We don't need more servile, docile people. We don't need any more infertility. We don't need it. So why would we go through with this, folks? Folks, I know I went over the show today. I'm sorry about that. I wanted to get all this into you before we hit the weekend. And again, I hope you have a blessed weekend ahead of you. Hope you'll do something productive, as always. And again, I hope you're sharing the show with other people to help spread these truths. Folks, thanks again for being here, as always. And I'll catch you on Monday on the next Mark and Dre Show. Until then, be good. Stay busy. God bless.